Hello, and a very good morning to you today. You're welcome to another section of our ongoing class. My name is Okolo Chukudmebi. It's your favorite ICT, for me, the senior ICT instructor. In the last class, we were able to look at a couple of things. We looked at UI, user interface, and user experience design. We were able to differentiate between user interface and user experience design. We're able to understand where does user interface come in. We're able to understand the elements of user interface design and the elements of user experience design. We're able to understand that both user interface and user experience have to work together as a whole body for them to be able for you to be able to develop very good applications that the end user is good. So now the first step now before we now today we're going to be looking at a very important topic which is also a part of user interface and user experience. And we're going to be looking at RWD. That's what we call responsive. Now you must understand that the world has evolved over time. Technology has evolved over time. As you can see, over time, technology has really evolved, evolved a lot, whereby now with the help of technology now, people are using mobile devices more to be able to visit websites. Responsive web design is concerned, it's all about how we can get to make how we can get to make our web applications to be very okay on mobile devices and smaller devices. Now, since we have more people visiting the internet through the use of mobile devices, through the use of mobile devices today, rather than laptop computers and other things, there are certain things that you must put in place and you must arrange before you can successfully have a good website that will work perfectly well on various screens. And we also have people that are using very large screens that will also come to your site, like interactive whiteboards, large television, smart TV. All of these things are need for you to be able to build applications that will run successfully, web applications that will run successfully on these platforms. You must apply the principle of RWD, which is responsive web design. Now, let's get right into the class. In case you're not yet subscribed to us, this is Prince Tech Mastery. I encourage you to subscribe to us. We release new tutorials, new lectures every single week. Every single week we release new lectures, and these are our new lectures that we release to you every single week. Honestly, you don't want to miss any of them. If you have been following us over time, I believe that by now you would have seen that we are very conscious and very clear about what we truly want about this channel. This channel is basically your technology school, your tech school, and I promise you, if you subscribe to us and turn on your notifications, you will never ever regret it. We cover a lot of topics on this channel, all the way from software engineering, web design. We deal with tips and tricks. We deal with various things and various fields. This is a new channel, but we're still growing and we're getting there already. And I want to encourage you, if you can subscribe to this channel and turn on your notification, and honestly, you won't regret. Now let's get right into it. Okay. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at understanding responsive web design. And we say responsive web design is a software development approach that ensures that web applications render optimally across a multitude of devices and window or screen sizes. It operates on the architectural premise that the structural layout and content should fluidly adapt to the user's viewport environment through fluid grids, flexible media, and CSS media queries. Yes, responsive web design is concerned, just like I said earlier, it's a software development approach that is concerned that ensures that web applications can render properly across various screen sizes. Your website cannot be good on computers, and when your website is open on a large screen, like maybe a smart TV, it is something else. So responsive web design is concerned with the fact that we have various devices, various screen sizes, and we have various users who responsive web design is like the coming together of user interface design and user experience design to come together and produce a standard web application in the premise of web design. And that's what we're going to be looking deeply into responsive web design today. And that's why we say your website has to be like water. That's the principle of responsive web design. Your website has to be like water. And what do we mean by being like water or being like a liquid? You see, when we say a matter is anything that has weight and occupies space, is that not so? And then one of the major characteristics of liquid is that they do not have a shape of their own. Liquids take the shape of any container that you pour them into. This is exactly how your website is supposed to work. A good website should be able to take the shape and take the of whatever device that is being used to build that website at a particular time. Now, if for instance your website may be okay, if your website is okay on a 1024 pixel screen, wide screen, your website should also be okay on a 465 pixel screen. the same way it should be okay on a 768 pixel screen, and just like that. So now, but one thing you must understand is that because we cannot tell all the screen sizes, like today we have various smart devices, we have smartwatches that access the internet, we have various kinds of devices that are used to access the internet in today's world. So because of that, your website has to you cannot make provision for every screen size, but rather you can ensure that your website works like water, that wherever it finds itself, it is able to adjust to that particular screen size. And that's why we say some of the things that we make use of. And when we say viewport, when we say it adapts to the user's viewport environment, the viewport environment we're talking about, each time you hear the word viewport in programming, we're talking about the particular screen, the particular device that is looking at that particular application at that moment in time. That's what we mean by viewport. Every time you hear viewport, what's in the environment where that particular software is being run at that particular time. Especially for web application, that's what we call viewports. And we say through fluid grids. When we say fluid grids, we are saying making use of grids to adjust. Now, if you have been following our lecture, we have looked at layouts in CSS, and we saw that there are two types of layouts in CSS3. We have the flexbox layout, and we have the flexbox layout, and we have the grid layout in CSS3. So now that way, now with the help of that, we say I have also made it clear to you personally saying that grid is very good when you want to build websites that are very responsive. Grid is more responsive than flexbox. That is just the truth that we must all know. Grid layout is always more responsive than a flexbox layout by the nature of the ability of a grid layout to be able to adjust differently based on the fact that it's a two-dimensional design, not a one-dimensional design. So it can take various shapes as may be required. So your grid, we say fluid, we mean that your grid should be able to adjust properly according to the particular screen that is viewing that application, that web application at that moment. Flexible media, when we say flexible media, we're talking about your images, your videos, your graphics, all the various graphics you are going to be using on that your application, icons, images, etc. They have to also properly be able to adjust to the right, your media must be able to adjust right. Now your website can be responsive, but the images on your website should also be responsive, and this is very important. Now in the olden days, we used CSS media queries. Okay, we were using CSS media queries in the olden days to make our website properly optimized for mobile devices. Now CSS media queries that we use in the olden days are no longer what we use in these current days, but then CSS media queries were also used at some point to be able to make website properly responsive. Now this moves us to the evolution of responsive web. Now there was a time in this world whereby you needed to just build your website. We didn't really care what device a user was using to view our website, because then we didn't have so many mobile devices that could access the internet. We're talking of the early days of the internet in the 90s till the early 2000s. This was a time that we didn't care really. But then, as soon as mobile devices began to come into play, we needed to begin to consider taking a different approach to building web applications to ensure that end users can properly, as soon as mobile devices began to come and mobile browsers began to evolve, we needed to make sure that websites could properly respond to each of these devices. Now, historically, developers built separate domains, e.g. as device fragmentation, separate domains. Now, this was the first. Now, initially, the approach to building responsive website was that you were going to build the same website across multiple domains. So when a user comes, you just add a little bit, or there's a JavaScript code that I can give you as a snippet that you can use to redirect. If a user comes on a mobile device, you redirect them to your mobile site. If they come on a desktop device, you can redirect them to your desktop website. There was a JavaScript code we used in doing that. So it stayed at the entrance of the website. So as soon as you come, it checks your device, whether your device was a mobile device or a desktop device, and it was going to take you appropriately to where you should go to. But this was one of the disadvantages of this was that it was giving developers double work, and secondly, efficiency was not sure. And this was because of the fact that developers now needed to build the same website multiple times, and this makes them prone to making mistakes in the development of this site, because they needed to rebuild the same website over and over again. So this made it that way, and this was a serious issue. And then there was another issue again, device fragmentation. What is device fragmentation? We now had different devices, not just mobile devices like your smartphone, like your iPhone, your Android. We also have tablets also, and tablets can come in different sizes. Phones can come in different sizes. We also have smartwatches. Are you going to now say, okay, I'm going to build a separate website for tablets, the same website, a different version for tablets, a different version for iPhone, a different version for Android. You know that would have been that was very terrible. So this was one of the issue, and then this became a maintenance nightmare. One of the problem of building multiple versions of the same was that when you do updates on the site, you might remember to do the update on the desktop site and not remember to do the same update on the mobile site, and maintenance would have been a nightmare and an issue. This way you wouldn't be efficient and you wouldn't be effective. Efficiency is that you cannot deliver maximum because you are prone to mistakes, and you will not be efficient, you will not be able to deliver, and effectively is that it is not feasible, because let's not joke about it, developers are also human beings. Now, so Ethan Marcotte coined the term responsive web design, RWD, in the year 2010, shifting the industry towards a single code base, utilizing CSS media queries to rearrange layout based on mathematical breakpoints. Yes, that was what happened. Now, Ethan Marcotte's coin brought about the term responsive web design. He was able to open the eyes of developers to the fact that as developers, we shouldn't be going through this nightmare of building multiple websites for multiple devices. Rather than us doing that, we should have a single code base and make use of CSS media queries to be able to adjust our website accordingly to different screen sizes. So this was what was important, and so it's shifting the industry towards a single code base utilizing CSS media queries to rearrange layout based on mathematical breakpoints. So now with the help of CSS, you only need to adjust your CSS instead of having multiple sites. You needed to adjust your CSS, and based on how the user, you need to just adjust your CSS based on how the user in question, based on what the user uses to visit, your CSS will automatically test and then be able to know what way to style the website for that particular user. And so that was what I brought about that. So now this now brought about the other questions in the developer community, like progressive enhancement and graceful degradation. What is progressive enhancement? Progressive enhancement is a core strategy where developers first establish a rock-solid baseline of essential content and functionality for the simplest, least powerful devices and browsers. As the browser capabilities and screen sizes increase, advanced styling, complex layouts, and heavier JavaScript features are layered on. It ensures universal access to core data. Now, what are we trying to say here? Importance of progressive enhancement. Progressive enhancement is a strategy whereby what we call progressive is a development strategy, whereby as a developer, we first provide what we call the MVP, the minimum viable product. Now we first have to implement the baseline whereby all the features that are necessary for this application to be used, or to be the most essential features. Like now, many of the other features that you have in your applications like Bolt, Uber, and the rest of them are not the most essential feature. The most essential feature is that the user can their ride. They can book their ride. That's it. But starring of drivers, commenting, reviews, those things are not essential features. Those are additional features. But that's an example of progressive enhancement. So what does progressive enhancement mean? Whereby we build the software first. This strategy means that you first build the software with all the most important facilities, the most important capacities that it needs. You first build the software that way. That way, it can run on small devices, it can run on big devices, it can run anywhere without any problem. Then as time goes on, you can now begin to ensure that certain features open up way more powerful devices are in use on that same application. That's what we call progressive enhancement. So progressive enhancement takes a bottom-up approach, whereby we build from the lowest, we start from the least, and we slowly build up to the highest. That is what progressive enhancement, that's the approach of progressive enhancement. It's a software development strategy that we use. And we have the opposite of progressive enhancement is what we call graceful degradation. And graceful degradation is building for the most powerful, is when you build for the most powerful, for the most modern, powerful desktop environment first, and then patching or hiding features so the site doesn't completely break on older or mobile devices. So while progressive enhancement takes a bottom-up approach, graceful degradation takes a top-down approach. I want to encourage you, graceful degradation is okay for olden days applications. Like when if you find yourself in a situation whereby you have to work on some applications that were already existing, and these applications need to implement some modern features, graceful degradation can work for you there because you met this. But whenever you are building new application, the best approach to the software development is a bottom-up approach, which is progressive enhancement, whereby you build provide the most essential features, build for the lowest grade of devices first, and slowly build up, slowly build up until you get to the most powerful devices. This is the approach, and this because the lower grade devices are more in use now than the most powerful device. So please let us take this must be very important. This must be clear to you. So when you're doing new applications of these days, use the principle of progressive enhancement, use a bottom-up approach. And when you're working on older applications that were already existing, then you can make use of graceful degradation. Yeah, because many of those older applications, which many of them have already been updated, but in case you find yourself with such kind of applications currently, many of those older applications were not built to work on mobile devices. They were built to work on desktop devices. So now, if you come to work on them now, you now need to use the principle of graceful degradation because they are older applications. Responsive web design, like you can see, is a principle that came in the year 2010, and that's roughly about 16 years now that it has come into the picture. So you can see that it is quite a new concept. It's not totally a new concept in terms of implementation, but in terms of the way it is done today, it is a new concept in general entirely. So there are some websites that already exist in the 90s and in the early 2000s that you may find yourself having to update or work on rather than doing the job afresh entirely. But that depends on a variety of factors too, whether to break through away what was done or to redo the job or to expand on what was done. We're going to be looking at that in future in one of our lectures. So we're going to be looking at what point does a software engineer, because in this channel we don't just teach you the skill, we also want you to have the necessary theoretical knowledge, the necessary principles to apply when you are building your applications. This is one major thing that we do. Now, what is the role of AI in enhancing responsive design? Now, last class we were able to look at the role. We were able to use AI for user interface design and user experience design. We introduced Versal.app. Now we're looking at role of AI in enhancing responsive design efficiency. AI heavily accelerates the RWD workflow. Modern AI coding assistant can automatically generate complex CSS grid and flexbox layout, predict necessary media query breakpoints based on design inputs, and automatically upscale or compress flexible media assets to serve the most optimized file based on the detected viewport. Now, what we are basically saying here is that with the advent of AI plays a very powerful role in responsive web design efficiency. But at least now, so many of the things that you would have had to code all through by yourself from the scratch, with the help of AI, like we saw in the last class, how we're able to use AI, Versal.ai, to just code a product card within a short time frame, a very small time frame. We used it and we coded a product card and it came out very fine and nice, which someone can use in their application if you want. So now, because of that, now with the help of AI now, as a developer, with the help of AI now, so many of the things that you needed to do manually by yourself, you can use AI to implement those things. AI can help you generate the required code. That's why we say coding assistant to implement those features without you having to do them yourself totally. This one helps increase your efficiency and your effectiveness in development. This is why I always try to tell my students, I say AI is not here to replace developers, rather AI is here to enhance you as a developer. So let's take notes of that. Okay, now mobile first prototyping, the RWD workflow. Okay, let's continue. So now, what are the RWD? The RWD workflow, that is, how do we work? What is the process we take to create responsive website? First of all, mobile first prototyping, design the linear stack layout for narrow viewports. So the first thing that we must do is that we design the linear. We first of all create the prototype for the mobile devices. Okay. Then after you design the prototype for the mobile devices, you say establish fluid grids using relative units. So your grids, you have to establish fluid. Instead of using pixels and inches for your measurements, you make use of VW, VH, REM. These ones are and percentage. These ones initially only percentage was existing, but with aid of CSS3 now, we have VW, we have VH, we have percentage, we have REM, and of course percentage is still there. These ones are not absolute, they are relative. So that way, anything that you create, you put the height and the width in this measurement, they come into that device and they work with the viewport they have available. They don't go with an absolute pattern. So if you have an image that is 500 pixel wide, you know very well that image is going to break on a 300 pixel device, on a 300 pixel wide device. So you cannot use that. You know that will be very bad. So instead of using that, you use VW, VH, and REM instead to achieve that, instead of using absolute units. And then flexible media implementation, ensuring that images and videos scale within their containers. Yes, you make use of things like max width equal to 100%, height equal to auto. And then media queries makes use of CSS breaking points. Yeah, media queries are still at work today, but due to the advance of increase in technology, like one of the technology we're going to be going into today, due to the improvements and evolution of technology, we don't suffer our head with media queries that much. There are a lot of libraries and frameworks that have already sorted out this particular subject matter for you successfully. Cross devices, it's important that after you finish building your website, you test it across multiple devices to make sure that it's properly scaling as required on different devices. Significance of RWD beyond visual aesthetics, responsive web design is paramount for technical SEO. SEO, like I said, is search engine optimization. Search engines will always rank websites that are properly optimized for mobile higher than websites that are not properly optimized for mobiles. That is a standard for search engine. They will always optimize websites that are for mobile. They will always rank websites that are built for mobile higher than websites that are built purely for desktop. So you must take note of that. So it's RWD is very important for SEO. Google will not rank you if your website does not adjust properly for mobile devices. Now, search engines like Google utilize mobile first indexing, like I said, mean that they predominantly use the mobile version of the content for indexing and ranking. A non-responsive site suffers massive ranking penalties. It also centralizes code maintenance as developers only manage one front-end repository. One other thing that RWD helps us to do is that instead of having multiple sites to manage, instead of you customizing the same site in multiple domains, you only customize the site on one domain, and it works perfectly for any screen size it finds itself. Some common errors in responsive design, when you don't have, like I told when I started teaching us in HTML, I told us that the most important tag in the head section of your HTML document is the meta viewport tag. Now, if you don't have that tag, whatever you are doing in the name of responsiveness is just a wastage of time. That tag must be present. If you go back to our past videos, introduction to HTML and the web, you will see where we discuss this very, very well. Just go through our channel, you will find some of those videos available. Okay, now forgetting this causing mobile, when you forget the viewport meta tag, you cause your website to break on mobile devices. Fixed width override, hard coding a width on a container which breaks the layout on a width 400 800 pixels on a container which breaks the layout on a 400 pixel mobile screen, causing horizontal scrolling. So now if you use fixed widths for your website cannot be, for anything on your website, it will not be properly optimized for mobile. You have to make use of percentage, viewport to VW or VH. You have to make use of any of these three measurement units for it to work. And then hiding content unnecessarily, using display ratio. So having to hide certain content on mobile devices and showing them on desktop devices is not a good practice for responsive web design. So we said, right, mobile, the layout should have a header, 3 content boxes on mobile. They must stack vertically. Okay, let's quickly do this classwork. Let's do this classwork very fast. Okay, so we can understand what is happening here. Let's see. Okay, so okay, let's just do it quickly. So I'm going to create a new folder. As usual, I told you that why you need to have XAMPP is that every one of our projects are in XAMPP, so that way we can always go back to them. Okay, so okay, give me a minute, I'll get back to you now. Okay, so I had to quickly, put my files together here. I needed to clean up my htdocs folder. So right now we're going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it NMON class. Let's say 1, for instance. Now, this one I'm more or less, as usual, I always advise that you take a modular approach. But then, for the purpose of this, because we are not really doing a complete work, from subsequent tutorials will not be like this. I'm going to just create a single file that contains both the HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript of what I want to work on. So now, if you open our manual is usually attached to each and every one of our videos, but then is the manual. If you want the manual, you can. If you can't see the manual, you can send us a mail and we can get the manuals across to you. Okay, copy, and then we'll go here. Say save. Then let's just save the file. Let's go to documents. Let's go to htdocs. Okay. So of course, I always told us index, name of the first page of our website. Index.html, hypertext markup language. Okay. Go there, and if we run it now, you can see this is the website, and when I'm opening it in Google Chrome, then if I should go to more tools, okay, if I go to more tools, let's know whether this website is properly optimized for mobile, developer tools, and then I can just click this. Now when you click this, you see, we can see how it's going to be on where this on this height is going to be on an iPhone 16 Pro Max. This is exactly how your website. If we should take a bigger screen, let's go for a tablet now. Let's go for an iPad. Let's go for a Surface Pro. I know a Surface Pro is a large device. Okay. You see, whatever device that our application, our software finds itself, this website finds itself, is going to adjust properly. On Pixel 8 is like this. Pixel 7 is also like that. So it can adjust properly. Your website should be able to adjust like this on various devices. Now, like we say now, like we always say that we are living in a world of technology. Okay, we live in a world whereby technology has evolved greatly over time. Now, as much as because we want to achieve responsive web design, using pure CSS and using HTML and CSS will give you so much work and so much code to do. And one of my job here is to ensure that I introduce you to the right tools and teach you how to use the right tools that help to make your work faster. Now, so that is why we're going to be starting a series on a framework that helps us to make our website responsive. We're going to be starting a series today on Bootstrap 5. Join me in the next class as we get into it. Bootstrap 5 is a technology. It's a CSS framework that is used to build websites that are properly optimized for mobile devices and various devices on various screens. Join me in the next class. You don't want to miss the next class. Honestly, you don't want to. Join me there. I still remain your favorite ICT instructor, Okolo Chukwudumebi Prince, the senior ICT instructor. Join me in the next section. You don't want to. Thank you.